Well, Merry Christmas. Oh, we had some beautiful snow last night. Looked out and the cleats were covered up. I just had a quick cup of coffee and realized that it was starting to rain. It was predicted. So Chuck is hustling around to get a few things done before it gets too slippery. Hello! Merry Christmas! Whew. So the spigot had gotten frozen over a couple of days ago, so Chuck was unable to fill our water tank, so we've actually been using the day tank as a water tank for the last couple of days. But spigot is thawed out, and so he's hustling around to fill the water tank here before it freezes again. Cold, cold.
Excuse me. We demonstrated this procedure before, didn't we?
Yep, we have.
When the weather was better. Let's hope this doesn't turn into a demonstration of rescue techniques.
Yeah, that is one of those things that might not be a bad idea, wearing your jacket just in case your foot slips and you go in. I can't stay out here for too much longer with the camera. I don't want it to get wet. It is starting to rain, and it's a cool rain.
Well, it's the first chance we've had to fill the water tank in a week.
Yeah.
More than a week, because the standpipe got frozen. Someone left the water running.
I was like, what is that floating in the water? It looks like a crocodile.
Looks like what?
It looked like a crocodile getting ready to...
Oh.
Just a couple of... That's funny. If we were in Florida...
So where's Chad and Carolyn? Chad and Carolyn, I think they're in La Paz right now. Or no, they're on their way to La Paz and they got stuck because of weather.
Yeah.
Before they got there. They're in an anchorage somewhere down there in the tropics, down Mexico way.
Yeah. I'm gonna go grab the shovel and start shoveling the walk here so it's quite as bad as doing Lois's house.
No. Well, if it weren't raining, I'd say let's build a snowman, but you know, that goes. Hey, let's get inside.
Alright, I'm gonna go do Heath's.
You're gonna do Heath? I did Heath's walk yesterday.
Yeah.
And then it snowed another 8 inches.
Well, coffee is almost ready.
It's recording. Well, when the coffee's ready, we'll break.
Yeah. So I think have the conversation. Some of the big changes we've had a lot of big changes.
Oh, we ought to say hi. We're gonna start a video. We should at least
we were just gonna converse between ourselves.
just kind of pretend that the
was
camera caught us unawares and we were just accidentally talking with the camera running and didn't know that anybody is watching.
Well, this is stuff we're gonna edit out. So it's all right.
Are we? Aloha, y'all. If y'all are watching.
Yeah. Oh, it's almost
Yeah,
ready.
it's almost ready?
I'm gonna pour, and that'll be the 4-minute warning.
Okay.
Yep. So, darling, what are you thinking? What are we gonna talk about today? What do you want to talk about today?
Well, first off, we are actually living aboard the boat still.
Woo-hoo!
Again. I
back.
mean,
We're back.
as we have been doing ever since we got to Petersburg, 10 years ago, we house sit for months at a time because people ask us to help them out, and we're happy to help them out by taking care
And
of their home
for the
while
dogs
they're away.
and cats, we wouldn't be doing it.
If it weren't for the dogs and cats, we wouldn't be doing it. You know, Hagar and Annie started it all. So, yeah, but we, you know, here it is. It's January.
4
We're
minutes.
living on our boat. Oh, I got to set my timer. I set my timer for the perfect
The one good thing we got out of California.
San Francisco. The one good thing we learned in San Francisco was how to properly make French press coffee.
Yeah, that's funny.
Okay. Well,
Where were you, Chuck?
I was just remembering that waiter.
Yep. He got a
So,
good tip, if I recall.
He did get a good tip.
We had a lot of fun with him.
He had a lot of fun. Yeah. Well, that's what it's all about. It's entertainment. You know. If you're going to restaurants for the food, there's something wrong. That's paying too much money. Yeah, we're living aboard, and maybe I'll put a shot in here of Christmas Day, filling the water tank on Christmas Day. It's you know.
It's always an adventure.
It's always an adventure. It's just the way we live. We live on the boat. You do what you got to do. There have been inconveniences like
the water spigot being frozen.
you know, somebody thought it would be. They have winterized water spigot, a standpipe water spigot type deal that will not freeze. I mean, wouldn't you do that if you're in Alaska, right? So.
Well, when we first got here, they used to put the hoses in the water with it on a string. So
when we first got here,
put it in the water, and then when you were ready to fill up, you'd pull on the string and pull the hose out, and then fill with that.
That's right. It was on a, you know, the hose, the flexible hose with a valve on it, regular water valve, and it was just on a string hanging down in the water because the water doesn't freeze. Water stays 40 degrees. So if you leave the thing down there, the pipe won't freeze up. And you pull it up.
And it was always slimy.
It was always slimy, of course. But it was also 150 feet away from the boat.
Barnacles and
it's also 150 feet away from the boat, which meant I had to put 3 hoses together. This new one is just under 50 feet from the boat. So one hose does it, and the new spigot standpipe arrangement thing, well insulated. It's well insulated, and you don't have to mess around with that stuff. Well, somebody decided that the smart thing to do was to leave it trickling, just let it dripping a little bit, and that they thought, would be the good deal to keep it from freezing. But that's not the way it works with that setup in these temperatures. What happened was we had an ice plug and an icicle going down to the dock, and a big patch of,
frozen,
half-inch thick ice, and the thing was completely frozen.
Yeah.
You couldn't even turn the valve, let alone turn it on or off. So, but the other side they had left alone. The other side was shut off, and all you had to do was turn it on, and water flowed freely. So, but unfortunately, the other side was another foot away from the boat and facing in the wrong direction. So even after I pulled the boat in closer to the dock, got it nailed in as close as I could, got the bow all the way in, I couldn't get the hose
without
to the water tank.
Water running all down the.
Well, I couldn't get the hose to the water tank at all. It wouldn't come. It was 2 feet away or 18 inches because it was on the other side of this post, and the faucet went that way instead of that. Anyway, so it didn't work, and I had to fill up our auxiliary tank from a different spigot and carry it down to the boat with 2 gallons of water to use at a time. But then Christmas Day, temperature shot up to 40 degrees.
Yep.
So, and then it all thawed out and everything was good. So we're all fine. back onto our fill the water tank every Thursday schedule.
Because we were running dry on Christmas Day, weren't we?
Yeah, we ran out of water. Couldn't make coffee. Oh my God.
Well, it's not that we couldn't make coffee. It's just that you had to go out and fill the
Before we could, yeah.
fill the day tank and
Fill
fill
the day tank.
the kettle.
Yeah.
By the way, are you wanting?
Well,
a
Christmas Day was I thought I did. Christmas Day was thought out. Was the first day I was able to actually put water in the tank.
But it was in later in the afternoon.
Yeah.
That you were able to finally do that.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway, yeah. The travails. It's more challenging to live aboard here, I have to say, than it was to live in
Hawaii.
live aboard in Hawaii. However, you know, in the later years in Hawaii, you couldn't leave the boat unattended.
Yeah.
So, you know, you'd just be robbed, and there was nothing you could do about it. So it just wasn't safe there anymore. It's not safe there now. So although it's warmer, I'll
And
give
you can
that.
shower on the dock.
And all you have to do is
it's
take a
just-
hose and squirt yourself off on the dock.
I do miss that.
I do miss that
It was funny.
too.
Michaela the other day asked some question and about me loving Hawaii, and I never said that, and she was kind of surprised because she thought I had said that. I'm like, no, I have never said that. There are certain things I loved about living there, but
Yeah.
I've never loved Hawaii.
No, it's a sad thing what's happened to Hawaii, especially Honolulu. But you know, it's I hate to say it's fairly typical of how do I put this? I don't want to go there.
Well,
Big blue cities. So boom, there we go. I said
yeah,
it.
big blue
We're done with it.
cities,
That's
yeah.
what happens in a place like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the crime made it untenable for us, and I was done working, so
There
we
was
left.
no-
We're
there
not
was
going
no
back.
point in staying.
Which is one of the next things. It's not exactly the next thing on the list, but
Is the 4 minutes up?
is it 4 minutes up? Is it time for the coffee? Yes, it is. It's
All
time.
right,
It's
I'm
time.
going to pour, and then let's get started.
Okay, then we'll get started. I thought we already got started.
No. I think this can be a pre-show.
Hmm?
We can do, like, cut it and do a pre-show.
That's
and
kind of a rip-off, isn't it?
then, you know.
We know somebody else who does podcasts like that, but his are live.
Everybody does.
The last thing we did was a live stream, and
Yeah, we
just
went back and looked at that. That
we
was,
were really encouraged by the live stream at that time, but the technology just isn't working for me. For one thing.
Well,
For another thing,
Let's chat about that in a moment. Here's your coffee, darling.
thank you.
I'm going to sit down, get settled, and let's go ahead
So,
and
yeah.
open up.
All right. So we talked about living aboard before we ever got our fresh coffee here. And we talked about the weather. You know, living aboard in the summertime here, it's still cool. It's like the Pacific Northwest. It is the Pacific Northwest, just a little farther north and a little farther west. And we're in we're in a rainforest, which would be northern temperate or subarctic. We're like 1 degree or 2 degrees south of what it would be considered subarctic zone. So we're in a wet, cool place, a cool, wet place, and so the weather is only to be expected. We don't find it particularly objectionable.
I've had a lot of people in the last couple of weeks say that they've had a harder time with the dark this year than ever before.
It seemed to be darker than ever
Yeah.
before. But the only thing that bugs me is, moss growing on my north side.
Yeah, it's looking pretty bad back
Um,
over there and back there.
So it's been a couple of months. The last video upload was in October.
We've had quite a few
And we've had
things happen since then.
We've had quite a little
No, we
adventure.
both had an adventure, darling.
We both had an
It
adventure.
was an adventure. Sure, shall we have a
So
brief moment and talk
Okay.
about your adventure?
Yeah. So what happened?
Wait, it involves a Coast Guard flight.
thought I got one
And a
surprise.
really cool flight on a Learjet.
My first ride, my first ride in one
How
of those
awesome
new.
is that?
I need to look it up. What the model of those new Coast Guard helicopters is? It was really cool.
Insert picture here.
Insert picture here, and then the Learjet. That was also pretty cool. Special purpose Learjet.
No picture there.
No picture there. So what happened was, in early October, I was walking down the sidewalk here in Petersburg, and
Coming down Haugen.
coming
just
down
past
coming down the hill.
Library.
Yeah, and I stepped in a patch of ice, and both my feet went out from under me, and I went, bam, flat on my back, hard. Okay.
You mentioned that a little later
Because yeah, and
to me that someone had stopped.
someone
and
stopped
helped
and
you get up.
helped me get up. Yeah. So, so then, a couple days after that happened, since I don't remember,
Remembers nothing at all.
we'll pick it back up at the part where I remember.
Funny, but not. So I can't remember if we'd talked about your previous adventure where you ended up in the hospital for a brief period of
Well,
time
that's on-
a couple of months ago.
That what?
But-
oh, that. Yeah.
Yeah, oh that. So anyway, Chuck had ended up in the hospital the week before Thanksgiving. Had a pretty scary little bit of time. Definite confusion. He said several things that were completely inappropriate for where we were at the time. And when I say inappropriate, why are we looking for the tea bags, and an incoherent response. So anyway, we ended up at a late night run to the hospital. The previous episode they had put him on some fluids because he had been severely dehydrated. Got him started on fluids again, and I stepped out of the room for a brief moment, came back to hear that he had a pretty severe seizure, and things just kind of went downhill from there.
Yeah, well, that's it. So the part I
or
remember,
up in the air from there.
we don't need
so
to.
speak.
Yeah.
Anyway,
The part I remember was being rolled across the tarmac from the clinic to the, or from the terminal, or from the ambulance to the helicopter. As I woke up when the cold air hit me,
yeah.
and so I looked up and I saw the helicopter. I go, oh, cool.
Anyway,
They
so
loaded me into the helicopter, and then the next thing I remember was being rolled across the tarmac from the helicopter to the jet, to the Learjet. It was green, or bluish green kind of color, and that's all I remember.
Yeah.
And then after that, the ICU in Seattle.
So we medevaced out to Seattle. I was not able to make the very cool helicopter ride
yeah.
or the Learjet ride with Chuck, but was able to catch a flight out the next afternoon and meet him in Seattle. We made it back to Petersburg the day before Thanksgiving. So it was a week in Seattle. Got a good eyes view of the VA system down there, which was wonderful. You were treated very well. We were both treated very well. I stayed for a brief period of time with a good friend who was giving me rides back and forth to the VA, but I eventually ended up staying the last, I think, 3-4 days at the Fisher House, which, if you're not familiar with that, is an amazing program that's available for veterans' families staying from out of town near the VA systems, free housing, and just an absolutely amazing facility. I started crying when I walked in and looked around and saw what was available. Beautiful room, just the kitchen facility where, after a long day of sitting with your your husband and being very
Tubes
concerned, and you weren't up to driving back and staying in a hotel and worrying about logistics of where to stay or where to eat or any of that. You'd go back, there were refrigerators full of pre-made meals, freezers with frozen meals and snacks
Wow.
and drinks, and it was
I didn't know about all that.
Oh yeah, it was phenomenal. And laundry facility and just a quiet place to just get your stuff together, and I was only 6 minutes away from your room at that point. So it was
Cool.
if you're ever, as a veteran family, if you're able to take advantage of Fisher House facilities, I would highly recommend them. And as having been treated so well by them, we'll make a point of doing some small donations as often as we can, because it was
So
it was a lifesaver for me in that situation. But anyway, on to your learned experiences over that period of time.
Well, the upshot
The upshot.
is I got thrown back into the VA healthcare system, and I'm sure that people have seen our videos before, know that I am a disabled Vietnam veteran, or a veteran of the Vietnam War, not a Vietnam era veteran, but an actual boots on the ground veteran of Vietnam. I was there for almost the entire year of 1968, and so I've got all the stuff. They used to, there's a little mantra, infantry feet, airborne knees, artillery ears. I don't have infantry feet, which I wasn't in the infantry. But I definitely have artillery ears. I'm wearing my free hearing aids right now, and I have an audiology appointment in Anchorage at the end of the month to upgrade the hearing aids, I hope.
Rechargeables, woohoo!
Get rechargeables, yeah.
I keep finding those little batteries in the
But
laundry.
but now that I'm old and falling apart, I'm going to be 74 this year, they tell me.
That's the rumor.
That's the rumor. So I'm closer to 74 than I am to 73 right now. And so these things are to be expected. But what is not to be expected, I think, at my age, is 2-month-long or month-long open ocean passages. I just don't think there's any more of those in my future. Like Larry Pardee, who was about my same age when Lynn and Larry announced that they weren't going to do that anymore because of Larry's health and stuff. I'm in really good health. I mean, my doctor says I'm in really good health for my age.
Compared to all the people he sees.
Compared to all the other people he sees. I'm going to physical therapy, get my back straightened out.
Oh, you didn't finish that story. What happened when you slipped?
Oh, I slipped and fell. Oh, I fractured the T5 vertebra.
Yeah,
And,
kind of an important one here.
And when I got down to Seattle...
Yeah, a compression fracture of the T5.
T5 vertebra. When I got down to Seattle, they ran me through all these imaging things, MRIs and all that stuff, X-rays. I don't know what all they did, but there was nothing but testing down there while I was in ICU. And they discovered that my entire skeleton is pretty much ruined. And why aren't you on any pain drugs?
So, hold on, so the doctor comes in. I had requested to see the image of his compression fracture. So he comes in with the image on his phone and has the complete image, zooms into the T5 and said, here's the recent fracture. And I went, that's great. It's horrible, but it's great. But back out on the rest of that again. And he zooms out and I'm like, okay, I know we're talking about this, but what about all of that? And it was quite obvious that his whole spine is completely messed up. And I am shocked that you didn't have any back pain prior to any of this. And we're absolutely blessed that you haven't, because your spine
Well, not enough to worry about. I mean,
yeah.
It's not like my back never hurts.
No, but it
before.
was, wow.
But that fall just kind of
Really exacerbated everything.
kind of loosened everything up, and or whatever.
Yeah.
That did something that made it way worse. So all the way from the base of my skull and down to my hips.
And knees and all the rest.
Yeah,
of
and
you
everything. So
yeah.
it just triggered a flare-up of arthritis. And of course, the whole thing threw me off my diet and exercise program that I was doing before.
And then, not to mention all the weight that you lost eating the hospital food.
I went down to, I was under 130 pounds. at 5'10", under 130 pounds there, which I'm not a big guy anyway. You know, the biggest I've ever been when I was really working hard to gain weight was 180.
180. That was
And
when both
just
of us
barely. And the instant I stopped trying to gain weight, I dropped down. So, you know, 150 to 160 is more normal for me, or has been more normal for me. I'll take 150. I'll even take 140. So, at my age, I don't think I need to carry around a bunch of weight extra. So, but I'm not fat. I never have been fat. That's not an issue for me.
Yeah.
And I'm not. But you see, 127, 128.
You were down to
We're-
you were down to
we're-
123, darling.
We're that low? Oh my
Yes.
God. It's concentration camp territory.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, we got to watch that.
So, anyway, we've had an interesting last few months. Chuck's been working pretty hard to get some calories in and
Gain weight.
get some weight gained back, gain some strength, and kind of start feeling better again. So it's taken us a while to get back
Yeah.
here.
So that's what happened, and that's why we've been gone since October.
So Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all that good stuff. All the
we-
holidays. Martin Luther King Jr. Day is on Monday.
Monday, yeah.
Tomorrow, as we record this.
Yeah, all sorts of interesting stuff going on out there. Lots of stuff in the paper this week.
We just cover some of the stuff people ask us. I mean, we live aboard in Southeast Alaska. This is just our life.